So I gotta tell you, after we left the wedding, we went back home, you know what I mean? And we're there for a while, we're there for some months, and then Jesus said something that lit me up. Okay, my heart excited, I'm a little excitable, I'll be honest, okay? It lit me up. He says this, guys, we're going to Jerusalem for Passover. Does anybody know about Passover? Eh? Listen, I don't know what you might have as a favorite holiday. Do you have a favorite time of year? What's your favorite celebration? Somebody tell me something. What is it? Christmas? Or what do you love about Christmas? Tell me something. Ooh. Okay, very good. Like traditions that you do together as family. Okay, what else do you love? Somebody tell me about Christmas. What do you say? Straight up. Presents. Yeah, right? You like the gifts. What about the food? Do you love the food? What about family? Do you like being with family? Yes, some don't answer. All right, okay, I understand. Okay, listen, Passover for me, this was like the same as for you Christmas, okay? This was family, this was food, this was celebration and tradition and singing and gifts, all of these things together. And so to get to go to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover, this was the highlight of the year, okay? The best. And so he says, we're going, and now I'm getting to go not just with my family and people that I love. This time, I get to go to Passover with the Messiah, the future king, who will reign in Jerusalem on a throne someday coming soon to Jerusalem near you. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, is this it? Are we going? Is he going to take it like business, you know? So we go, and as we come into Jerusalem, he goes straight. I know where he's going. We're following him. Guess where he goes first when we get to Jerusalem? What is the highlight of Jerusalem? Thank you so much. The temple. Yeah, you've been, huh? So the temple is everything revolves around it. The temple for us, this represents the presence of God. From back with Moses, and God told him about the tabernacle. This was the portable one. You know what I mean? Pack it up, boys, in the wilderness. But when we come into the promised land, into Israel, greatest king, right? After David, son, he builds a temple. And it got built and rebuilt, but this is a beautiful temple. This is where the priests serve. This is where anybody who's anybody, especially at Passover, where are you? You are going to be at the temple. And when we walked in, I want you to come with me sometime. I mean, you're talking columns, so big, and it's gold overlaid with things, and the courts are just beautiful. And so every time I go in, it's overwhelming because I'm not a city boy, right? I'm from this little city by the sea, little town. So we're overwhelmed with this. And it's normal. Like every time I've been there, especially at Passover, you've got the tables and you've got the cattle and you've got the pigeons over here and you've got the sheepies, and the people are doing business. Because at Passover, everybody needs, what kind of animal do you need at Passover? Yeah. You need a lamb, because Passover, I forget it, you don't know. Or maybe you do. Passover, what are we celebrating? Let me help you. Okay, this was when Moses led the people out of Egypt. And you remember, right? How God told him the last of the plagues against Pharaoh. This is one of my favorite stories as a young boy growing up. My father told me about this one, was how, they had all the plagues, and then there was the darkness, and then the last plague, right? You remember? He said to Moses, tell everybody, every household, you take a little lamb, male lamb, no blemish, under a year old, and you kill it. And my boy, I like that part. Sorry, girls. Okay? You kill the lamb, you catch the blood in the basin, and then you take the blood, and he told them, you put it on the doors, on the sides, on the top, and then you go in through the door, and they were supposed to eat that lamb, roast it together and eat it, and they were supposed to eat it with their coats on and their staffs in their hand, because he had said, this night, you're leaving. because he is going to judge and prove to Pharaoh who is God. And that night, anybody who did not obey the voice of Yahweh, Lord God, and do this and go into the house, what happened that night in their homes? You know? The firstborn son of every family that did not go in through the door would die. And not just son, of flocks, herds. And that night, whose son died? Do you remember? Pharaoh's son, the next god of Egypt, died because he didn't listen to Yeshua. And Pharaoh said that night, "Get out!" And God delivered us by his mighty hand. It was like he took his people by the hand and said, "Come on, kids, let's go." I'm sorry, that wasn't even part of it, but I gotta tell you the story. It's my favorite. So this is what we're celebrating. This is Passover, huh? And so this is why in the temple they're selling the lambs and they're selling this and they're selling that, and you gotta get everything for the proper celebration. This is normal for me. But as I'm checking it out with Andrew, we hear this smash. We turn around and this table is overturned and the money that's on it is scattered on the floor. And this one over here, we look over and Jesus is taking this table and he's turning it over like this. What in the world? This is the Jesus, this is the Messiah who's playing horsey, huh? Just months earlier, loving his friends. This time I see a different side of Jesus. And he is agitated. A little bit, you know what I mean? And we're looking over here like they're just going rampant to try to get everything back because there's other people that are like freebies, you know? And then we look over and now he's got a whip. Where did he get a whip? I don't know, you know? But he's got a whip and he's not hitting the animals, but he's driving them out. So you got the moo-moos over here and the babas over here, and he just went over to the guys with the pigeons. He's like, just get them out, you know? And he says to them, "Stop making my Father's house a marketplace." And these Pharisees, the religious leaders, listen, the ones that were there, I watched a lot with Jesus. I encourage you to do this too. When you read, watch. I'm standing back like this, and listen, for the first time now I'm kind of like, I don't really know if it's beneficial for me to be attached to him. You know, I just stand back here a little bit, you know. And these guys, they came right up to my Jesus. They front him and they said, "You show us a sign to tell us that you have the authority to do this." Huh? And I'm thinking, well, I saw him do a sign. I know he can do something. Like he could say, "Momo's here," and they would all come back, you know what I mean? He could say, "Baba," and they're lining up in front of him. And I'm thinking, what's he gonna do? Oh, this is gonna be a little exciting, you know? And he looked at them and he said, "Destroy this temple and in 3 days I will raise it back up." And they looked at each other and they said, "He's a madman. It took our ancestors 46 years to build this temple, and you would rebuild it in 3 days. He's a lunatic." And I'm standing there going, I have no idea what he's saying. But I know he's saying something. You know, this was a lot of my time with Jesus. And then he turned to us and he said, "Let's go." Okay, yes, sir. We left the temple with him, and Peter says, "Lord, why is this so upsetting to you?" And he said, "Guys, listen, some of our best moments with Jesus were while we were walking. Huh? Just walking in the way. Some of the best gems would come from his mouth. He used everything to teach us. And so as we're walking, he said, that house is a place that my Father provided for people to be able to come to Him, to be reconciled to Him, to have their sins forgiven through sacrifice, providing the animals so that their sins could be taken care of, that they could be in relationship with Him. And He even made provision in the law so that even the poorest of the poor could afford something to atone and take care of their sin, because this is the heart of my Father, He says to us, is for these people to be in relationship with me. But these men, whose job it is as priests to mediate the way of reconciling people to God, they are making it impossible because they've forgotten the purpose. It's become a job for them, an opportunity to profit off of them. He said, may not know this, but do you know that some of these priests, this is what was going on in the temple. First of all, they jacked up all of the prices on things. They made sure that everything that was there could only be purchased with the temple currency. And so you've got people coming to Jerusalem from all over the place. And so now they need to purchase this money, and it's expensive. And then they need to purchase these items that are expensive. But not only that, do you know that some of these priests are cutting deals with the vendors? You know what I mean? So the vendor would sell a lamb, to this person. This person would bring their lamb. He would bring it to the priest. The priest would be the one that would take it, sacrifice it. This is serious business. Atoning for their sin, so they could be right with God. But do you know what the priest would do? He would say, good, be blessed, go in peace. He would wait till they were gone. He would not sacrifice this lamb. He would take it back to the vendor and say, sell it again, 50-50. It was disgusting. And it repulsed the Lord, because that is not what God is about. Right? He tells us these things, and okay. And when we got back, we went back to Capernaum after this. And listen, people are starting to hear more and more about Jesus. Everybody was in Jerusalem. Anybody is in Jerusalem for Passover. And so word is spreading. And so as they come back to Capernaum, they're talking like this. And so when we went, where do you go on Sabbath? You said you don't celebrate Sabbath. You go to church. You call it church? Yeah, you go to church, your building. What day do you go? You typically go on Sunday, okay? So we would go to synagogues, what we called it. And you know what day we would go? Saturday. You're so smart, okay? No, we would go on Saturday. It's what you do, So this was fun, because when we went to synagogue this Saturday, we are going with Jesus. Who does not want to walk into church with Him? You know what I mean? This is incredible. And when we got there, listen, the Lord is invited. The religious leaders see Him and they say, oh, please, Yeshua, will you come and will you read the scripture for us? Please teach us. Okay, I'm with Him. So we stand, we sit, we listen a little bit, together. And as He is reading and expounding, and listen, in ways that I've never heard teachers teach, there was an authority in His words. Not because He talked like this, but there was a confident rest and authority, even with gentleness, but strength, And I watched people listening to Him, and they are locked in awe of what He's saying. But in the middle, imagine this happen at your church. In the middle, while the preacher is teaching, there is a demon-possessed man at the back. And all of a sudden, he stands up and he goes, ha! What do we have to do with you? I know why you are here. Have you come to destroy us? I know that you are the Holy One of God. And everybody's head turns to this man. And then, who do you think they turn back to? Jesus. And Jesus looked at this man. And to the demon, he said, silence. Get out. And do you know what happened? He shut up and got out. And that man fell to the ground, but he was unharmed. And now, they already were respecting and listening to his teaching, but now, through this demonstration of his power over demons, who is this? Now everybody is looking at him and listening even more intently because he just focused back to what was important. Oh, well, listen to me. When we left synagogue that day, this is a good day. You know what I mean? Woo! And we went back. Now, the day was going to get better because we were going back to Simon's house. And the best thing about Simon Peter's house was that his mother-in-law lived with him. Because this woman, she could cook, baby. Oh, listen, don't you love, do you ever do this anymore? Where you go to church, you come home afterwards, you eat nice meal, anybody? You should try it. It's good, you know? So this is what we're looking forward to. We would eat the meal together, and you know when you get home and you open the door, and what do you smell? Lamb. I don't know what you smell. But so we are excited. We're getting there, and we're hungry. It's been a good morning, boisterous. And so we get in there, and nothing. It's so disappointing. And Peter, he goes in right away, and he disappeared kind of into the back area, and he came back out with a look of anxiousness on his face. And you know what is incredible? The Lord did not even ask. He said, take me to her. And so I'm going too. We follow the Lord and Peter into this back room, and Peter's mother-in-law, she is laying on this bed, and I don't know if you've ever seen somebody that is so sick with a fever. They're just not even there. She's not even responding. And listen, we don't live like you live, where you can jump on and Google something, you know what I mean? What do you do for this, you know? Or call a doctor in the city, you know? No. When people got sick like this, you pray to God and you hope, but so many times there's no coming back from this. And so she is so sick laying in this bed, and you know what the Lord does? He goes over to her. Check this out, you ready? And he rebuked the fever. Okay, in the synagogue, he kind of rebuked the demon. Okay, that makes sense. But he stands over Peter's mother-in-law, and he rebukes the fever. He says, fever, get out. And you know what happened? The fever got off. Now, I know you don't, how do you see a fever got off? Listen, the fever broke. She's wet. When she got up, the bed was soaking. But not just like, she's not just coming back a little bit. No, she literally, it broke, it was gone. She sat up and she goes, I gotta cook. Yeah. Praise the Lord, yes. Let's get the meat, So she does, she goes and she starts, and then we're just like, who is this Jesus? Such authority, such power. So now we sit and we are enjoying each other's company. This is what we do. In our culture, you don't just shove your face full and go. No, we will recline around the table, especially on Sabbath, okay? Because on Sabbath, we got so many rules, you can't do much. But you can linger together. We would recline around the table. We would listen to each other. We would talk to each other. You know what's so funny? I was invited to one of your homes the other day, and you guys, you're like this. I'm like, what are you doing? You are like, you're looking at somebody's face here for a time, and there's faces here. I'm like, what are you doing? It's so weird. Why don't you talk to each other? You know, try it. So this is what we do. We talk to each other. Huh? We enjoy each other. And the sun is beginning to set. Now, do you know what happens on Sabbath, on Saturday, when the sun sets? Do you know what that ends officially? Anybody? Yes, it ends Sabbath. Sabbath began for us Friday night when the sun went down, and it ended Saturday when the sun went down. So what day is it today? Sabbath. And so the sun is beginning to set. And listen, we don't have like you have the flicky. You know what I mean? When it gets dark, you don't turn something else on. When it gets dark, you have the candle. But listen, we go to bed. Try it. So, we would go to sleep. And so we are tired. We are ready to sleep a little bit. And, it's been a long day, like this. And as soon as we are just ready to out the candle, this is what we hear. Who's at the door? Because listen, if there is somebody at the door this quickly after the sun has set, they were waiting as soon as the sun set to leave and get there. You know what I mean? Who is at that door? Peter gets up. He goes over. He opens the door. And there, standing, is a mommy holding her little boy. And you can tell when someone has been crying, right? Because you just know. And she's holding her baby boy. And listen, Jesus is up. He's up right away. He put his hand on Peter's shoulder. Peter turns like this, and the Lord didn't even say anything. He goes, it's like, I got this. So Peter turned back like that. The Lord came forward. And this Jesus, who has so much authority, so much power, he puts his hands out and he says to Mother, may I? And she gave this baby boy to the Lord. He took the baby. He loves children, remember? He does this. He says, what's his name? She says, Nathaniel. Like he didn't know. And he looks at him, he smiles a little bit. The baby's not moving. He kissed right there. And he smiled. He hands the baby back to his mother. And he said, it's going to be fine. And you know what? We saw that mommy and that baby 2 weeks later. And that baby was fat and happy. All right? We didn't even know what was wrong with the baby, but we find out later he wasn't eating. She didn't know what to do. Again, right in our time. And so she's desperate. And just, baby's fine. Wow, And then so I'm like, this is a good day. I am ready for some sleeping, And so she turns around, and when she moved herself out of the way of the door to leave, listen to me. We looked past her, and it was like the whole city was coming to the door. There was like they were all waiting. Everybody left synagogue and went and told everybody about this Jesus and his authority and his power. And so the whole city is coming and lining up at the door. And I'll be honest, okay, I love Jesus. I love you guys, but I'm ready for bed. I'm tired. But Jesus, this was like, okay. He looks at Peter and he goes, make some space. He's inviting everybody in. I'm like, couldn't you go out there? No, that's not what Jesus does. Not his style. He brings them all in. Come. You got ones that are like carrying the lame man, you know what I mean? They're like their friend here. They've got the blind people coming. You got people demon-possessed coming into the house, And I'm thinking like, can we organize this? You know what I mean? Like, let's put all the blind people here, the lame people here, put the crazy ones there. You know what I mean? Like, close to the door, right? But they all get in there. And now I'm thinking, I know who my Jesus is. Let's just get him in the middle, right? And he can just say, okay, you ready? Blind guys, you ready? Up here, lame guys, great. All right, here we go, ready? 1, 2, 3. Healed. You know, you got the blind one seeing. Whoa, this one's jumping around. This one's normal. Like, so, like, let's do this, right? No, that's not how my Jesus does it. No. Do you know what he does? He goes to every single one. And he says, tell me your name. And he listens to them. This one who's holding their son, who's demon-possessed for so long, he comes and he helps him and he holds him for a minute. He doesn't just do it and go on to the next one. Listen, he listened to people. Do you know why? Because he actually loves them. It's not just work for Jesus. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not this time is when I'm just my time, oh, and this time is when I'm at work. Come visit me during these hours, you know? No. For Jesus, 24/7. He loves people. And so to listen to them. And I'm telling you, you know that one, you know the one in the group, the tuck, 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 you know what I mean? Tuck, 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 tuck. And I'm like, she's talk, and I'm like, seriously, woman, look around. A little bit of people here, you know, like, you know? And so she finally stops talking, you know, and you're like, okay, get it, Jesus, you know, like, get it in there and move on. You know what he does? She's talk, she stops, he goes, he asks her another question. I'm like, seriously? Really? Oh, man. Because he cares. You're laughing because you know. If you're not laughing, you're probably that one. Okay, so listen. He loved on every single one of them. He healed every single one that came for healing. And he's the one that's saying goodnight to them as they leave and close the door. And he turns around to us and he goes, how good is our Father? Excuse me? Don't you mean how good are you? No. He says, how good is the Father that his will would be to bring them to us and to heal all of them. Because I'll tell you, there were other times when we went places where he only healed one person in a whole group of many. But his heart is so like bursting. He goes, the Father's will was to heal all of them. Wasn't that amazing? And we're like, I don't understand this. I'm learning, I'm watching the relationship that he has and he talks about with his Father. Always giving glory to the Father. So interesting. He's powerful, and yet he's so gentle. Who is this Jesus? What is your favorite thing about him? I wonder. I mean, I'm going to go for a little bit. We'll take a little bit of a break. You know, there's so much to think about. But you know what would be so fun? I'm taking all the time and I'm telling you my favorite things about him. But what if you told somebody else, what's your favorite thing about Jesus? Maybe just start with, what's your favorite story that he did that you know about? But think a little bit more. What's the favorite thing about who he is? Not just what he did. How did he do it? Who did he minister to? Why? What's your favorite thing about who he is? That's when the relationship starts to go. Not just when you focus on what they do, but who they are.